Ooh la la, chaka, ooh la la, chaka, ooh la la, chaka, ooh la la. What movie are we watching today, Justin?
We're watching Fantasy Mission Force, aka Dragon Mission?
Also known as The Dragon Attack with 2 exclamation marks. That's the Japanese title.
And it's also known as Shadow Man 2 in West Germany.
Wait, the sequel to the Steven Seagal movie, Shadow Man?
No, I think it probably has something to do with Snake and the Eagle Shadow, but I couldn't find any reference to there being a Jackie Chan starring Shadow Man #1.
If you were a young Jackie Chan fan in the 90s and the 2000s, this is one of those movies that you would see on public domain DVD racks all the time. Just a baffling film. You'd buy it, and then you'd watch it, and you'd say, what is this movie? And the received wisdom for what this film is, I think largely comes from Jackie Chan's autobiography.
I Am Jackie Chan.
Written with Jeff Yang.
AKA completely written by Jeff Yang.
I think it's fair to say that Jackie Chan wrote every single word of what we're going to hear. But he wrote in this book, I did this movie because I owed Jimmy Wang Yu a favor. I appeared in only a few stunts, but I'm billed as the lead. Jimmy stars as a hero who is called in to rescue a group of world leaders kidnapped by the Japanese. He and his troop of crazy cohorts succeed in doing so, but not without first battling aliens, Nazis, vampires, and Amazons. If it sounds ridiculous, that's only because it was.
Jackie Chan had obviously not seen the movie because that's kind of the plot, but not quite.
Well, it's funny that you should mention that because next in his filmography is a movie called Ninja Wars from 1982.
Wait, we're missing a hilarious part where you get all the world leaders here.
Oh, God.
Where it's like, oh, the Japanese, they're right over there. Or Abe Lincoln.
I think we're also going to see a reference to Rambo and Rocky pretty soon.
And everybody's favorite Aces Go Places with Carl Macca. We should point out that specifically me will say a lot of Chinese names in this, and I'm going to mispronounce them like Quentin Tarantino would back when he was doing stuff for Rolling Thunder Pictures.
Oh, I see you, film fans.
I love this kind of meta, like, wait, so they're watching a movie, and now they're going to do a briefing on it? This beginning that we just saw is not in a lot of versions. Most of them sometimes just cut right to what we're seeing right now of the people deciding who the team's going to be made of, and I've seen some versions that actually start right with the song when he's in the bar.
Yeah, that's the version that I'm most familiar with. That's the version that I first saw on a triple feature DVD that also featured The Young Master and The 36 Crazy Fists. Okay, they can't get James Bond. He's on duty in South Africa.
They can't get the bald detective, a.k.a. Carl Macca from the Aces Go Places films. King of Snake.
King of Snake.
They can't get him either. And Rocky is not suitable for military action.
Why was he in contention? Who knows? Now this is from another film by the director of this movie.
Is it Golden Queen Commando or Pink Force Commando? I always get both of them confused.
It could be either one of them. But look, those people aren't going to be able to help them find these kidnapped generals. So who do we have? We have Jimmy Wang Yu, the presenter of this film.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Jackie Chan said he did a favor to Jimmy Wang Yu by making this film, and by that he actually was coerced into doing it through Jimmy Wang Yu's Triad connections.
Now, we'll get to that in a bit. Oh, a bit of blackface there. Sorry,
Yes.
Sorry about that, folks. Here's a quote from Jimmy Wang Yu. Oh, shit, a lot of blackface. Here's a quote from Jimmy Wang Yu from when he went to New York to pick up a Lifetime Achievement Award from the New York Asian Film Festival in 2014. He said, I've never lost a drinking competition. I had 2 solicitors in Hong Kong witness that I can drink 3 bottles of Hennessy XO cognac in 3 hours with no bad effects. Even afterwards, I can still walk from the nightclub back to the hotel. So this is the kind of guy we're dealing with Jimmy Wang Yu.
Yeah, in the late 2010s, he had a stroke that paralyzed half of his body. And if you look at his Wikipedia page, it looked like it was written by himself, where he's like, even though the doctor said not to, Jimmy Wang Yu would do 1,000 chin-ups every day.
He's a man with not a small ego. He's a man that is very important in the history of martial arts film. Oh, ooh la la, chaka, ooh la la, chaka, ooh la la, chaka, ooh la la. And in the version that I always saw, it cut right here, and I was always very baffled, why did these credits stop? What is the kilt guy? Okay, here we go.
This is the good stuff.
This, I think, is my favorite scene in the movie.
Well, I mean, it's what you want every movie to have. A musical number out of nowhere that never reappears again.
Yeah.
It's just so, baffling, but at the same time, Chu Yen-ping, the director of this film, we're going to talk about him a lot as we go along. He's a guy that said that he never really considered himself an artist, just an entertainer, and that his films are the perfect example of movies that just want to entertain their audience no matter what.
First of all, I think he's very modest. This is art.
Yes.
We're looking at art.
Arguably the most entertaining film of all time.
Now, when I first saw this, I saw this guy and I thought, is this Jackie Chan? But he's not. Do you know who he is?
Yes, I actually do know who he is. He is, as I flip through my notes in a very prepared fashion, Young Sung, who is in this film either Old Joe or Old Son.
I love that white guy who just like his eyebrow is like,
I love all the white guys in this movie because you can tell they were just picked from some hotel in Taiwan where this film was shot. But yeah, so this guy, he was actually quite a star and won a bunch of Golden Horse Awards. In the 50s and 60s, he actually participated in films that were like big things, which makes me wonder how he ended up in Chu Yen-ping's films.
Well, you know who else used to participate in bigger movies than this? A man by the name of Jimmy Wang Yu.
Yes.
And I think we should get into him a little bit because there would be no Fantasy Mission Force without Jimmy Wang Yu. There would be no Hong Kong martial art film. Well, of course there would be.
Yeah, there would be.
But he just happened to be
According
there at the
to Jimmy
right time.
Wang Yu, he would like us to believe that he was the main person who caused that. But I just want to talk about Old Son just a little bit more because it's fascinating that, like, he acted in a bunch of King Hu films. And, like I said, he won a Golden Horse for his impeccable performance in Papa, Can You Hear Me Sing?, which came out the same year as Fantasy Mission Force in 1983. And then supposedly his life changed when he became a Christian, but he still continued to work with Chu Yen-ping, so I guess he represented the values that he believed in.
Yeah, well, Chu Yen-ping, I think, is one of cinema's great humanists.
I love this guy that's appearing on screen. Other than the, Asian actors in this film, it's very difficult to find any credits for people who probably only appeared once, like this guy in the red bandana that you're seeing on screen.
Like, I strongly believe that they just pick these people up out of the Chungking mansions and
guaranteed, not even the Chungking mansion.
Yeah, because this is Taiwan.
This is Taiwan.
No paperwork.
No.
There would be no way to track these people down.
They paid in cash. This gag that appears right here is such out of like an old spaghetti western. This like impossible, we just made a dummy to replace somebody. It's just the good stuff.
Also, just you could break your neck in that cut from one scene to the next.
Well, like, tonal consistencies are not something that seem to bother Chu Yen-ping that much. I feel that, like a lot of Taiwanese and Hong Kong films, he probably just made it up as he went along.
This is easily the best looking version of this film I've ever seen. Mostly I've seen it in pan and scan, really terrible prints. And look at this. It looks like a King Hu film.
It does. It was actually available on a German Blu-ray, which is the only place that the film has been released so good looking. It's obvious that they scanned a 35mm print and digitally remastered it because there's no damage at all to it, which is crazy.
I wonder if this comes from the negative. Who knows? Now here's Jimmy.
Yeah.
As you can see, he is not particularly good looking.
He's not particularly fit either.
He's not a great actor, or even a particularly good actor. He was not even a great martial artist.
No, he was a swimmer, and that's what kind of led to fame and getting a contract with the Shaw brothers in the early 60s.
Apparently he was, and I'm getting this information from an interview that he gave at the 2014 New York Asian Film Festival. He was in college at Hong Kong College, in fact, and he claims that he was suspended for 6 months because he was fighting with people on his swim team.
That sounds about right.
Fisticuffs. And then during that 6 months, I've heard conflicting reports. Some say that he was spotted by a talent scout. Jimmy Wang Yu says that he simply went to an audition.
And he was so amazing that he blew everybody away.
So amazing. And he was auditioning for a filmmaker by the name of Chang.
And for people that don't know who Chang is, he is the martial arts director of the Shaw brothers, followed probably right behind by his choreographer for most of his big films, Lau Kar Leung.
The Hong Kong martial arts film, as we know it today, kind of begins with the one-armed swordsman in 1967 and the Chinese boxer in 1969, but versions of it predate that.
Yes.
There were 99 films in the Wong Fei Hung series, which was made between 1949 and 1970.
But I think a particular flavor of martial arts combat really started to cement itself with films like One-Armed Swordsman and One-Armed Boxer. One-Armed Boxer specifically, I found a bunch of references to this, that it was the film that kind of broke through worldwide as like non-weapon fighting films, which is weird because it's not one that we talk about that much in this day and age. Its American title was actually called Hammer of the Gods, which I've never seen mentioned anywhere.
Jimmy Wang Yu was signed to a contract with the Shaw Brothers studio in the mid-60s. He made 6 or 7 films, mostly undistinguished, until The One-Armed Swordsman in 1967. And as Jimmy Wang Yu put it in 2014, we all felt like something was different with this movie. Before we made it, the swordplay in the films was like Chinese opera. 1, 2, left, right, bow your head, do a jump. But we were doing real fighting.
And Jimmy Wang Yu, after the success of One-Armed Swordsman, instead of sticking to the path that a lot of people like David Chang and other Shaw Brothers actors would follow, of just like keeping in line and being paid your weekly salary, because even if you were a star, you didn't get paid any more at the Shaw Brothers like studios.
They got paid terrible wages at the Shaw Brothers studio. And in fact, even after The One-Armed Swordsman, Jimmy Wang Yu was making like, $400 Hong Kong a month and living with his parents.
So Jimmy Wang Yu went, screw this, and he ended up starting his own film company and directing his own films and actually breaking his Shaw Brothers contract.
And because he broke his Shaw Brothers contract, he wasn't able to film in Hong Kong anymore for a certain amount of time.
Which is why he ended up making these films in Taiwan. And I think that one of the reasons he was able to break the contract was his relationship with the Triad underworld, which for a long time, pretty much up to the handover, were one of the guiding forces of Hong Kong cinema.
And in fact, the Shaw Brothers helped plant the seeds for the Triad infiltration of the film industry, because a lot of these actors and stuntmen, they, would need to find other work aside from being actors and stuntmen, and an easy way for not very well-educated people to find work was in the Triads.
Mm-hmm. And one of the best stories about Jimmy Wang Yu, or stories, comes from Brian Trenchard-Smith, who actually directed Wang Yu in The Man from Hong Kong, which was an Australian martial arts picture. And he said Jimmy Wang Yu was a giant ass to work with. Every day was hell. He thought he was the best in the world, and he would do things like, according to Brian Trenchard-Smith, eat a fly before he kissed his Caucasian co-star.
Because he thought that women and women actresses and white women actresses were basically, he treated them like dogs.
Yeah, so Jimmy Wang Yu was pretty much a garbage person through and through.
But, a great man, Mr. Jackie Chan, who we see arrive here.
And the person that's actually beside Jackie Chan right now is someone of a lot of interest that people don't talk about that much. Her name is Pearl Chang. She also goes by Lily Chang. And what's notable about her is that she's one of the few women directors to make martial arts pictures independently in the 80s, or any time really. She directed the Mondo Macabro kind of gold standard, which was Wolf Devil Woman, which is like the cult film. And then she made Matching Escort and Dark Lady of Kung Fu, all between 1981 and 1982. That would probably explain why she's in this movie. She probably got some favors from either Triads or Jimmy Wang Yu, which is why she would make an appearance in this. And other than that, she would be one of the only women directors, other than Cao Pao Shu, who directed 10 martial arts films for the Shaw Brothers, and then Pearl Chang would disappear from the industry after the 80s and never act in anything again.
I'm sitting here laughing at this classic bit with Jackie and his opponent trying to one-up each other with smoking a bigger cigar or pipe or joint or whatever.
Jackie Chan could have just showed up and just said the lines and gone home at the end of the day, but he commits in this role. In the, I assume 5 days that he shot on it.
Jackie Chan first crossed paths with Jimmy Wang Yu in a major way in a 1976 film called The Killer Meteors.
Yeah, that was back during Jackie Chan's Lo Wei period, which was the bottom of the barrel.
After the death of Bruce Lee, of course, there was a sweepstakes to find who could be the next Bruce Lee. Mm-hmm. Lo Wei, a filmmaker and producer who directed Fist of Fury and The Big Boss, the two star-making vehicles for Bruce Lee, was reminded of a stuntman on Fist of Fury, somebody who had doubled for the famous scene where Bruce Lee kicks a guy through a wall. And that man's name was Jackie Chan.
Yep.
So they hired Jackie Chan to star in a series of kung fu potboilers where he played, kind of a stern warrior type.
And at one point he even got eye-opening surgery to make him look less Asian. And the one where he met Jimmy Wang Yu, Killer Meteors, was one of the rare times that Jackie Chan was playing the villain of the picture.
And in fact, I believe that movie was from before the surgery that opened his eyes a little bit, and you'll be able to see the difference. When
yes,
you see
you
that
absolutely
film.
can.
All of these movies that Jackie Chan made with Lo Wei are, I think, kind of presumed in the public domain right now.
Yeah, they are. You always find them on like 10 packs and stuff like that. I don't know if that's quite true, but the thing about Taiwanese films, even more than Hong Kong, is that they were always patchwork things that people assumed were just available to anyone, and were also made up of tons of copyrighted music. Like, even Fantasy Mission Force, probably something that's keeping it from getting a proper release is that you hear music from, like, Planet of the Apes, you hear, like, Indiana Jones strains, you hear all kinds of stuff that they obviously didn't have the rights to, but they went, who cares? We're gonna put this movie, it'll play for a few weeks, and then it'll disappear forever.
I love this Charlie Chaplin shtick that he's doing, you know, like trying to punch the guy and then trying to butter him up immediately after. This is like pretty funny stuff.
This is funny. I watched this movie yesterday, and I was consistently entertained throughout. Now, if you're looking for like a through line, you're not going to find it. But as far as just crazy stuff being thrown at the audience, it's high quality crazy stuff.
Oh yeah. So Jackie Chan, his films with Lo Wei, after he became a big star in Hollywood in the 90s, disreputable DVD companies wanting to cash in on that fame could release any of Jackie's early movies, and they just were flooded everywhere.
Just like close-ups of Jackie's face. Master with the cracked fingers. 36 Crazy Fists.
36 Crazy Fists is a movie that he's not even in. He did fight choreography on it, and then the producer of the movie tacked on some documentary footage in the first 5 minutes of just him, like silent footage of him, you know, doing the fight choreography.
Like, at that point, wouldn't you just release a film and pretend Jackie Chan is in it? Because, like, you've already fooled the person that bought the DVD or rented it. And it'd always be, like, his face. Sometimes photos taken from that, like, famous shoot where he just wore that black shirt for Miramax Films.
Yeah, the Rumble in the Bronx shoot, or maybe the Super Cop shoot. Like, all these DVDs would have that picture of Jackie, like, with his fist outstretched towards the camera.
And, like, just, like, his teeth bared.
Yeah, and you'd watch the movie, and it would be this horrible-looking pan-and-scan film that he's barely in. Mm-hmm. There was one in particular that was released as The Young Tiger, which you can still find on Netflix, which is actually, I think, a early 70s, like just a police procedural movie called Policewoman, that he's in it as a...
Just very briefly.
Yeah, he's a henchman, and he's got a big mole on his face.
Like, again, like, do the distributors think that the people that bought the movie are gonna go like, oh, wait, there Jackie Chan is, I guess I'm not ripped off. It's like, no, of course they're gonna feel ripped off.
They don't care if the viewer feels ripped off. It was take the money and run.
Which is funny that they would still put a little bit of Jackie Chan in it, though.
But also, for those of us, this was like before the internet was what it is right now, and video stores didn't have everything, so like we were hungry for any Jackie content we could
So
get.
when you went to Walmart and you saw like $5 and they had, I don't know, New Fist of Fury, you're like, whoa, is Jackie Chan in a movie with Bruce Lee?
I didn't have high hopes for New Fists of Fury, but I did watch it.
Oh, I also watched Shaolin Windmen, which is fun, I guess.
Snake and Crane Art of Shaolin is okay.
Yep.
What is not okay is The Killer Meteors, which is almost 2 hours long.
Maybe it's because we don't see it in the original format it was shot in, 3D.
Yes. No, you're thinking of Magnificent Bodyguards. Excuse me, Justin.
Sorry. I could have sworn I had worn those 3D glasses and seen Jackie Chan's mustache in the film coming out at me.
So in 1978, after a string of flops with Lo Wei, it's a well-told story. Lo Wei loaned Jackie Chan out to Seasonal Pictures, an independent company run by Eng Si-yoon, and the rest was history. They perfected the kung fu comedy genre with Snake and the Eagle's Shadow and then Drunken Master. And those movies were such huge successes that there were many companies vying for Jackie's services, but unfortunately, still under contract with Lo Wei.
Mm-hmm. And he had to get out of it. But before we get back to the saga of Jackie Chan and the Triads, Bridget Lin is on screen right now, doing what Chu Yen-ping loved to do, which is just ripping off a film completely. In this case, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Adding a little bit of a misogynistic flair.
Yep. Bridget Lin worked in Taiwan for a long time because that's where her career started. And I think that working with Chu Yen-ping was probably just, I don't know, like... something that paid the bills, I guess.
She starred in his film Golden Queen's Commandos in 1982, which I believe was a success.
And then Pink Force Commandos in, or is it Operation Pink Force? There's so many Pink Force titled things in 1984.
Bridget Lin, of course, is known as sort of the Greta Garbo of Hong Kong cinema, mostly, I would say, for her appearance in Chungking Express.
I would say that one of the things that popularized her a lot was the way that Choi Hark used her in the Swordsman films, because she became to represent an androgynous kind of figure that could play a man or a woman. Oftentimes, like in Swordsman 2, her voice would be dubbed by a man.
Yeah, and she would play androgynous figures in several films, including Wong Kar-wai's Ashes of Time, where she plays both a woman and her brother, who may or may not be the same person.
Which is another extension of the idea of like the Swordsman films, the wuxia pictures, flying swordsman, where, you know, if you cut off your dick, you'll gain ultimate power.
That's what I keep telling myself.
That's why I did it.
But relevant to our purposes, Bridget Lin co-stars in Police Story from 1985, one of the quintessential Jackie Chan films.
I wouldn't say it's one of her best roles.
No, but she has some notable stunts in it. She falls down some stairs, and then in the outtakes, you can watch her screaming in agony.
She had what was called, is it like flower pot or flower vase roles, which is like an example of Chinese women just being put in a film on display, which people would say kind of defined the early films of Bridget Lin because she had such a defined kind of presence.
Jackie Chan made a lot of films that have a flower vase leading ladies.
I don't think that women in Jackie Chan films, that's what he's very famous for. Here we get probably one of our first kind of man-to-man action scenes.
Yeah, fist to fist.
And you get the painful stunts that we've grown to love. A little bit of misogyny there as well.
This is the thing about Hong Kong, or in this case, Taiwanese martial arts films of this period. Like, you know, even if it's not a very good movie, you are dependably going to get a couple of incredible stunts.
And the thing about Taiwanese cinema is that it was even more, like, off the grid than Hong Kong was, which is, it feels like most of these films people died making them. And like nobody else knew because they would just ship people in to work and then they would probably leave, or no one else would say in the Taiwanese film industry. They're always a little bit cheaper than Hong Kong films and way more wilder than Hong Kong films as well.
It would be easy to suggest that Jimmy Wang Yu's career declined because he went to Taiwan. Which, you know, maybe had something to do with it, but, I mean, frankly, he just wasn't very good. I mean, it seems inevitable that he was going to be eclipsed. And that happened in a big way in 1972 when a fresh-faced upstart named Bruce Lee burst onto the scene.
Yeah, Jimmy Wang Yu was pretty much forgotten as a main star for a long time, but his ego was so big that he couldn't just get out of it, and instead he would go on to do things like direct, write, produce, and would deliver to the public. Probably his most famous film, I would think, in North America, which is Master of the Flying Guillotine.
Yes. Well, Bruce Lee and Jimmy Wang Yu, in the brief period when Bruce Lee was still alive and a star, had a bit of a war of words in the press. And you know, today Jimmy Wang Yu would say, I set the template that Bruce Lee followed, but, you know, it's not really true.
No.
But Jimmy Wang Yu worked with Bruce Lee's former director, Lo Wei, on a movie called A Man Called Tiger, which in Hong Kong in 1973, that film and Bruce Lee's Way of the Dragon were kind of in competition.
Were they?
Yeah, because A Man Called Tiger, which I believe was also called Yellow-Faced Tiger, it's like he goes to San Francisco.
Oh, it has the same plot.
And
real Wong Jing.
Yeah, and in Way of the Dragon, he goes to Rome, and then when they came out, it was a real head-to-head situation.
But who won in the battle of not-so-good directors?
Who's going to come out on top? Well, Way of the Dragon made substantially more money than A Man Called Tiger.
What are you talking about? My giant A Man Called Tiger poster on the wall would say differently. I've actually never seen it. Have you?
Yes, I have, actually. It's not very good. It's a Lo Wei movie.
Yeah. He is not a good director. Most famous for not paying attention to what was going on set and having a little radio by to listen to the horse races.
That's the story everyone always tells about Lo Wei, and also that he was a braggart who, in the press, would claim, "Oh yeah, Bruce Lee was a scrawny kid until he came to me, and then I put him on a fitness regimen, and I made him a star."
I mean, every bit of history has disproven that, but okay, sure.
After Bruce Lee died in 1973, a filmmaker who was interested in working with Bruce Lee, named Brian Trenchard-Smith, the Ozploitation director, ended up working with Jimmy Wang Yu on a well-known...
Yeah, we talked about it, Man from Hong Kong.
Australian action film, yeah, which I think is a great film.
I think Man from Hong Kong is amazing. It's a film that you can tell that Brian Trenchard-Smith, it being his first time as like a big feature director, was going, I want to make the greatest action film of all time.
Yeah, it's like, if you got a 12-year-old kid to make their ideal Bruce Lee movie...
Like, that's what it would be.
Yeah.
You got, like, Sammo Hung choreographing the action. You have Australian stuntman Grant Page doing insane shit.
Stunning car chases.
Yeah.
There's a scene where George Lazenby had his, blazer is on fire.
And it's actually on him, and he's like, oh, pulling it off.
And in fact, he really was severely burned doing that stunt.
Yes, he was.
So much for the safety regulations of, Australian B movies.
But that is one that, if you haven't seen it, not only do you have to pick it up, but you got to get the Australian region free Blu-ray by Umbrella Entertainment. Because not only do you get the film, all the interviews about the film, you also get 7 Brian Trenchard-Smith features on the second disc, including the famous stunt rock.
Brian Trenchard-Smith is fairly generous about Jimmy Wang Yu on the DVD extras of that movie.
Oh, because he kind of raked him through the coals and not quite Hollywood.
Yeah, he's
like, Jimmy Wang Yu's gonna come after me.
It's clear they're not friends, but he does say a lot of the root of their problem seems to have come from the fact that they both went on the town early in the production, and then I think Jimmy Wang Yu wanted to show off or something, but Brian Trenchard-Smith went home with a girl and Jimmy Wang Yu didn't.
Really?
Yes, it's just pathetic sexual jealousy.
Oh, okay.
And Jimmy Wang Yu wanted to be the big man on set, and who's this?
I just love that they just blew up a house. I'm sure that it was just there, or they bought it for $100.
But Brian Trenchard-Smith says, oh, I love this scene. Brian Trenchard-Smith says that if he saw Jimmy Wang Yu today, he would greet him warmly, and he might even hug him because they shared an extraordinary experience, and sometimes extraordinary experiences aren't shared in harmony.
I feel like Brian Trenchard-Smith is just a nice guy, and that's why he's saying that. I'm sure Jimmy Wang Yu probably still holds a grudge about the night that he didn't get the girl.
This scene that we're looking at here has a special place in my heart because I remember showing this movie to friends when I was in high school.
Is this where you lost them?
This is where I lost them.
Really?
Yes.
You're like, don't you love the classic sped-up Keystone Cop style comedy of these two guys?
I thought, what is not to like about this movie? How could anybody not enjoy this film?
As you're watching the shitty VHS, it's all washed out, you can barely hear the voices or anything like that.
Not that I would have kept them on my side in this beautiful widescreen version either.
Those two guys in the kilts are Hugh Bat Liu as Stone and Fong Ching as Stone Superior. As far as the credits that I could find on Hong Kong Movie Database, they essentially just lived in Taiwan and acted in a bunch of Chu Yen-ping films, about 10, and then they were never heard from again.
One thing I want to add about The Man from Hong Kong is it's a great movie, although it does have a bit of a hole in the center of it, and that hole's name is Jimmy Wang Yu. And I feel that, imagine if Bruce Lee had starred in The Man from Hong Kong.
I mean, it would not be the same film.
It would be better, I think.
Would he have done everything that Brian Trenchard-Smith wanted him to do, though?
Maybe not, actually. He might have put his, philosophy of the martial arts in there. Yeah, no thanks.
Well, Brian Trenchard-Smith is just I'm going to give you a chase sequence that lasts 15 minutes and goes, in a car and then into the street and then into a building.
Bruce Lee might have actually been smart and realized, hey, I want to make a movie that looks like a Hollywood movie. You know?
So I went to go make, Enter the Dragon, which is a very shoddy Hollywood movie.
Not that he had his pick of Hollywood movies at that time.
No, that's true. And you know what? We said this before. Robert Klaus, the director of Enter the Dragon, his heart was in the right place. He wanted to make a good martial arts picture, even though that it was a little bit shaky.
My vision for this movie I'm directing, called Fantasy Mission Force, is that when Jackie Chan's not on screen, everybody
People
should be
are like,
asking,
where's Jackie Chan?
Where's Jackie Chan? So far, top billed Jackie Chan, we've seen him for, I think, 4 minutes.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Chu Yen-ping, the director, a little bit, because I think that he's something that we consider Hong Kong filmmaking, but it's really not, because it's Taiwanese, even though that Chu Yen-ping did end up working in Hong Kong a lot, especially later in his career.
Chu Yen-ping, his style, I think, like it conveys something of Hong Kong filmmaking, the rambunctious...
Anything goes.
Anything goes, but also like the shameless commercialism of most Hong Kong cinema.
Well, doing research about Chu Yen-ping for this commentary, I was shocked to learn that he directed his first film in 1980. It was called The Clown. It was a successful comedy which boosted the career of comedian Xu Ping Lau and became a series of successful and formulaic collaborations between Chu and Su. And Su was known as the Taiwanese chaplain.
Oh, wow.
And considering that the film was called The Clown, I'm sure it was a literal ripoff of Charlie Chaplin.
Chu Yen-ping directed Jackie Chan and Jimmy Wang Yu twice together. The second film was a 1991, I believe, film called Island of Fire.
Which is known as the film that brings together all the stars of Hong Kong cinema. Sammo Hung, Andy Lau,
Tony Lung Cafe.
Yeah, and they all get together probably because they have debts that need to be paid. I'm shocked that Stephen Chow is not part of that gang either.
Yeah, I believe Jackie Chan or Jeff Yang in his autobiography says everyone seemed to owe Jimmy Wang Yu a favor.
And Chu Yen-ping afterwards would go on to direct, most famously, the Shaolin Popeye series, which I have to admit, I've never seen one of them.
I really wanted to see a Shaolin Popeye movie before this, but I just didn't have time. It's Popeye spelled Popey, and no, it has nothing to do with Popeye the Sailor.
Nothing. It's a comedy series that takes place in the Shaolin Monastery and stars kids. Like, that's the gimmick of it.
His big movie at this time, as we mentioned earlier, was Golden Queen's Commandos with Bridget Lin, and also Pink Force Commando. But he's somebody who's worked very steadily even since then. I mean, it's baffling to me that the director of Fantasy Mission Force could
continue to work.
Yeah, and you know, Justin, you and I were at the movies recently seeing a Chinese film, and we saw a trailer for a movie called Oolong Courtyard, and it looked ridiculous.
And then it ended with directed by Chu Yen-ping, and both our mouths just like dropped open.
My God, like we're watching a trailer for a new film by the director of Fantasy Mission Force at our local multiplex.
And unfortunately, the film never opened at our local multiplex, because I know that me and Will checked regularly. Even though that the trailer was as like threadbare as you could get, it had like Comic Sans font over stuff. Like, I mean, Chu Yen-ping would direct pretty like, I wouldn't want to say like blockbuster, but mainstream films, doing stuff like Kung Fu Dunk, which starred
Jay Chu,
who's a giant pop star. So it's not like he was even working in like the cheapest seats.
He also made The Treasure Hunter with Jay Chu and I believe Eric Tsang.
Yeah, I think it may have been a Wang Jing produced production. At the time, there was a lot of things that were ripping off stuff like Flying Dragon or Dragon Tiger Gate and stuff like that. And the one that he made, The Treasure Hunter, supposedly tanked his career enough that he hasn't really worked since, other than the trailer that we saw, which was a continuation of his Shaolin Popeye series.
I mean, he made a movie called, I think, My Geeky Nerdy Buddy or something. What was that? What was that film called from a few years ago? He makes like really low level, like practically TV movie stuff that are programmers now.
I mean, like, even back in 1980 when he was starting his career, he made a film called Magnificent 72, which sounds like a ripoff of 72 Tenants, which was a huge Hong Kong comedy production. So even at the beginning, he knew that, like, ripping off, that can make us money.
This guy is wanting to get married, have a healthy woman, leave behind his, life as a hobo.
Who likes to sing songs in bars and pick fights and stuff like that.
Drinking in front of rich people. This Hong Kong Dirty Dozen here.
I was actually looking into, like, did they do a lot of, like, Hong Kong Dirty Dozen stuff around the time to try to rip it off and make it popular? I mean, like, Dirty Dozen came out way before this, but there were some films like Incredible Kung Fu Mission, which is the Kung Fu version of a Dirty Dozen, where a bunch of prisoners are forced to go on a mission and fight their way through. And then you have, like, war films, which were not that kind of popular around this time, but you have a film called that was directed by Chang that's insane, that he made for the Shaw Brothers Studios. Let me just find it here. 7-Man Army from 1976, which is the bloodiest and most kung fu film filled World War II film you will ever see.
And of course, Eastern Condors
Yes.
by Sammo Hung, the ultimate Hong Kong Dirty Dozen.
Yep, why do you need the deer hunter when you can have Eastern Condors?
Yeah, seriously.
Which is almost as much of a bummer as it's
Look who's back, Jackie Chan.
wearing overalls that I feel like Jimmy Wang Yu forced him to appear in to make him appear more like a child.
Jackie is in the bare minimum of this movie he can contractually be without like having a triad come and murder him.
It feels like Jackie went, can I just show up for one day? And he's like, you're going to give me 2 and you're just going to randomly show up in my story.
Perhaps now might be a good time to return to the saga of Jackie and Jimmy Wang Yu. After the success of Drunken Master, Golden Harvest, one of the big studios in Hong Kong, was interested in Jackie's services. And as Jackie talks about it in his autobiography, quote unquote, Lo Wei was going to release him from his contract, but had him sign a piece of paper that actually turned out to be an even more prohibitive contract. I'm not quite sure
Tricked
how that...
again.
Yeah.
And considering Jackie Chan supposedly couldn't even really read or write, I don't know how legal that would stand.
He is apparently functionally illiterate. But listen, you don't need legality when allegedly you are in deep with the Triads. Lo Wei was apparently involved in the Sun Yi On Triad, allegedly, I guess, although Lo Wei is dead. There's no way to slander him right now.
The Lo Wei estate is going to come after us.
In the contract that Lo Wei had signed Jackie Chan to, he was going to double his salary from $3,000 Hong Kong a month to, like less than 10,000 Hong Kong a month, but a much less favorable deal than he would have got from Golden Harvest. And they needed somebody to broker a deal between the Sun Yi On Triad, Golden Harvest Studios, and Lo Wei. Because there were genuine threats towards Jackie Chan's life at this point. If he jumped ship, broke his contract with Lo Wei, he might get killed.
And he was not going to kung fu his way out of this one.
Nope. But the only person tough enough, brave enough, and well-connected enough...
Yeah, probably because he knew Triads.
Respected enough in the Triad community was Jimmy Wang Yu.
So, Jimmy Wang Yu got involved, brokered a deal with Lo Wei. I think that it ended up with that Jackie had to make 1 or 2 films for Lo Wei still, didn't he?
He made Fearless Hyena, but then he walked out of Fearless Hyena too.
Nah, that didn't stop Lo Wei because he just took the footage that was shot and released a version called Fearless Hyena 2.
Now, apparently the brokerage meeting between the Triad, Lo Wei, Golden Harvest, and Jimmy Wang Yu didn't go that well. And in fact, the police had to come to, break it up. But, eventually they sorted something out, and Jackie was able to leave Lo Wei behind, go on to Golden Harvest to his fame and fortune. But he still had a favor to owe Jimmy Wang Yu.
Or 2 favors, specifically.
He had a favor to Jimmy Wang Yu that turned into 2 favors years later.
I wonder if there's any, unproduced Chu Yen-ping, Jimmy Wang Yu starring pictures.
I wonder if Jackie Chan is, big enough at this point to be successfully insulated from any more requests of a favor from Jimmy Wang Yu.
I mean, let's be honest. Jackie Chan essentially works for the People's Republic of China.
Yeah.
So I don't think Jimmy Wang Yu has any say in that kind of stuff.
I believe after this dispute, Jackie Chan didn't have much harassment from the Triads.
No, I think that he was able to work fairly independently, unlike people like Wang Jing or Stephen Chow.
I think one of the reasons is because Jackie Chan's movies were so expensive. It wasn't, good business for the Triads. His movies couldn't break even in Hong Kong alone.
And, Jackie Chan worked most of the time internationally when he got to his big Operation Condor phase of his career, so it's not like he was working on the streets of Hong Kong either.
Yeah.
We're right in the movie here, right to the meat of the film, if you will. We're going to be introduced to...
Totally lost.
I guess these is a homage / ripoff to Birth of a Nation. This is when we're introduced to the Amazons, if you will recall.
Yes, that's right. It's has several different eras.
Yeah, that's right.
Like being in this movie,
Chu Yen-ping, the Quentin Tarantino of Taiwan.
you kind of lose track of where you are and like what time is.
And Jimmy Wang Yu exits the picture here. Will he come back? Oh, we're gonna have to figure out as the story unfolds.
It is crazy that Jimmy Wang Yu, like in this movie that he presents, that's a vehicle for him, just gets killed off 39 minutes into the movie.
I'm curious to know if it was probably just a way to launder money or something like that, because if he cared that much about it, he would have directed it, produced it, wrote it, in the way that he did, again, with Master of the Flying Guillotine. The picture that I think he plays 2 or 3 roles in, including the titular master and the hero of the film.
I love Master of the Flying Guillotine, by the way. Probably my favorite of Jimmy Wang Yu's Taiwan period.
I mean, it's so crazy, and it's so, like, dedicated to please, even though Jimmy Wang Yu exemplifies the waving your arms around style of martial arts.
Well, look, you got a flying guillotine.
Yes.
You know,
you got a guy who can stretch out his arms.
Oh, fun stuff, fun stuff. I think the general perception of his Taiwanese era is that, like, they're cheaper, but also they're, like, wackier and crazier.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think anybody looks to Jimmy Wang Yu's post Hong Kong era of movies. They're like, oh, I like the Hong Kong version better. I'm sorry, you were just laughing at the pants that fell down there.
I was.
Listen, you put a guy in a top hat, you put a guy in a, I guess, World War I German helmet, and you put a guy in a Scottish outfit. How can you not get laughs that come out of that? Oh, this is a great moment where they all shoot each other in the butt.
Any movie that has, like, sped up fast motion.
And I love the blood here. Like, it's just that little grace note to the comedy.
You know, I think received wisdom is that blood, like, you know, kills your laughs.
That's absolutely untrue. And I can use an example of a movie that just came out, Mission Impossible Fallout. There's a scene where Tom Cruise and his friends kill a guy, and then people come in and see that they killed a guy, and they make a joke about it, like, oh, my friend, he's just injured. And they cut to a wide, and you see blood on the ground, and then people laugh. And the director, Christopher McQuarrie, said that when they didn't have the blood there, nobody laughed.
I think Monty Python and the Holy Grail is another example of that. Like it...
Sam Peckinpah's Salad Days.
Yeah, like, when done right, it could add, like, stakes to the comedy, you know?
I mean, especially the way that Fantasy Mission Force wraps up at the end.
Well, Fantasy Mission Force, nothing if not a movie with stakes.
I love that it's obvious that they built this one military set and the whole film took place there. You keep seeing the same structures over and over again.
This is a very significant movie for you and I, Justin.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about our personal story with this?
So, for a long time, I did a screening series called Laser Blast Film Society, which we would just do in people's houses. And then a pal of mine, Peter Kaplowski, decided that he wanted to bring it to the wider world and invite the public. And we ended up doing it in the back of a sushi bar.
Yes.
And was it, I don't know if it was the first or second one that we did Fantasy Mission Force, and Will ended up coming to the screening.
This was, by the way, around the time that the Lightbox, the TIFF Bell Lightbox, was doing a big retrospective of 100 years of Chinese cinema.
That's right.
And one of the big gets they had was that Jackie Chan came to introduce a couple of his films.
Well, I just love the sequence because there's so much wire work in it. It's so insanely complex to pull this shit off. It always makes me wonder, like, are the directors standing around and going, like, let's just do the bare minimum? Or will we get 4 people throwing long, wavy silk around?
It's so beautiful.
Yes,
my God,
it is.
it's hypnotic.
Zhang Yimou, eat your heart out.
I'm sorry, but when Jackie Chan writes in his autobiography that this movie was awful, like...
Maybe he didn't see it in a remastered widescreen print.
This is, like, top 30 Jackie Chan movies for me.
Top 30?
Top 30, yeah.
Definitely in the top, I don't know, 2 for me.
And you know what? This might be even in the top 15.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, pure... Look at this shot. Like, all of them jumping out of the water at the same time.
Slow motion, just stunning. It's like it combines, you know, the thrills of a theme park water show with the visual poetry of Jean Vigo.
And it's impossible... Jean Vigo. It's impossible to watch wire work in martial arts pictures and not imagine the 5 people that have to synchronize pulling on the wire to get the person up in the air.
That stunt that he just did, you know, like where he got pulled out of the moving car, it doesn't look like much, but you try doing that.
Yeah.
That's hard.
It's good. It's good that probably in this time, at this time in the Taiwanese film industry, life was cheap. So if it didn't work, they could replace him with somebody else.
Yeah, good thing Jackie survived.
We're about to be introduced here to two of the heavies of the. Look at that! Like just jumping over the water.
Stunning.
I'm glad that she's not going that high up in the air because, as we've seen in documentaries like Red Trousers, when those wires break, people die.
You know, it's kind of handmade looking too.
Yeah.
That's what I like about it. Like, the costumes aren't very good.
No.
And yeah, you can see the seams.
I mean, there was like a sale probably at the Halloween store or something.
Yeah, but it's still like kind of beautiful and very well executed.
I mean, the colors are so bold, and like the iconography of the characters, while dumb and not related to anything else, is fun. If you were a kid and you saw this movie, you would draw the characters in your notebook.
Oh yeah, and look at this. Look at this image.
Bridget on the River Kwai.
Mwah.
And here you have Adam Chang, who was another like Hong Kong star who appeared most famously in Zoo Warriors of the Magic Mountain as the main guy.
Directed by Choi Hawk.
Yeah, who I guess is slumming it here as a tuxedo mask-like figure.
You know, it's possible that we have too many characters in this film. If I were to point to just one flaw.
But listen, you gotta introduce them so they can all die.
This movie is like a big buffet. You know?
That's
there's,
right.
There's something for every taste. You want
Like, it's pretty good. It's not the best, but it's good.
Yeah, it's like Mandarin buffet.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, actually, I think that's a perfect metaphor. This movie is exactly as satisfying as Mandarin buffet.
I like going to the Mandarin buffet. Like, you
so
need
do
to
I.
scratch that itch.
So do I.
And people will argue with me, but it's not good food. And I'm like, yeah, but I can try everything while I'm there.
That's right. And like, there's not a lot of nutritional value. It
No.
like tastes really good while you're watching / eating it, and you leave with a bit of a stomach ache, but that's okay.
Can you imagine being on this set and there's like a dozen women dressed in leopard print, like
I think if you're doing this movie because you owe a favor to a triad, this is like,
the best version of the movie that you can
well,
be in?
I think it would feel like a lot of work to me.
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
Like, but it would feel so crazy, and I can guarantee you that everybody that's on set has no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
They're just being told, like, stand here, say this, do this.
Well, I strongly believe this movie probably didn't have a script when it started.
Oh, guaranteed. I mean,
Because
Hong Kong films almost never have scripts, so Taiwanese films, woof.
oftentimes they would start filming, and then based on, you know, if they'd film 10 minutes, then they would get more money to shoot the rest of it.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, too, Hong Kong and I assume Taiwanese movies would be built around like 4 or 5 action scenes, and then, you know, they'd improvise the rest later.
And they obviously just had a set here that they could film on. I don't know if they built it. I probably don't think they did. It was probably a set left over from something else, and then they could just utilize it for their purposes. Like, oh, this looks like somewhere I guess Amazons could live.
Getting back to our heartwarming story of me seeing this movie at the back of a sushi restaurant, I did like that, you know, the Tiff Bell Lightbox was showing Police Story with Jackie Chan in attendance, and in the back of a sushi restaurant down the street, you can see Fantasy Mission Force.
I think that me and Peter picked this movie specifically because that was happening. I think it may have been like the same week around that Jackie Chan was appearing, just because there was the humor of that decision.
That was, by the way, back when I was not living in Toronto. I was out of town for 2 years.
So you had to make the trek.
I had to make the trek, and I made the trek specifically to see this movie because, like, you know, I love Fantasy Mission Force. I am not gonna, you know, lose a chance to see it in public with other people. And that was the first time I think I met you. Although
I checked on Facebook. We've been friends for a long time, like almost 2011, 2012.
yeah, I mean, certainly we would have been in the same room many times.
I love this nudity here of like these painted backdrops that they have to get behind. Like it's just full on breast out.
That was also the first time that I got to see this movie in stunning widescreen.
Yep.
You also curated a great, like, trailer reel beforehand of wacky Jackie moments.
Yeah, like I cut together like 10 minutes of like very particularly edited Jackie moments, and I kept cutting back to a shot in like a PlayStation video game of Jackie Chan, where like the camera, it was like obviously like an intro shot. The camera like went through a warehouse. Then you saw a man putting a box up, and I think you heard like Jackie, and he turned around to reveal the shittiest looking like digital Jackie Chan.
Just a monstrous, like he looks like the guy in Hannibal who got his face eaten.
Just like they took a photo. I imagine they probably like scanned Jackie or something like that. They're like, oh, we scanned Jackie and he did all his own moves, and they just like took a photo and stretched it across his face.
You also picked out a lot of like fun, like Jackie moments, like that commercial he did, I think for AIDS or whatever.
Yeah, he's dancing with the condom.
Yeah, an animated condom.
Yeah. I mean, Jackie is one that didn't have a problem selling out, if you will.
Well, I mean, I think some of the charity he work he did with like AIDS vaccines and stuff like that was probably noble, even if it did lead to him dancing with a condom in a commercial.
I wonder if Triads were involved in that as well. That video was also took place during the, I guess, like sweater period of Jackie Chan's career, which is around Wheels on Meals, where the fashion that he was adopting, not good.
This movie, Fantasy Mission Force, you could kind of create a whole, I think, Cinematheque retrospective around weird Jackie Chan oddities, like stuff that, not even the Lo Wei movies, but stuff that, like Frankenstein monster movies, just strange stuff that bootleg shit that would find their way onto public domain DVDs and would seemingly have no explanation for what, like the dark matter of Jackie Chan's career.
And we're not talking about like what was it?
The Tuxedo.
Yeah, the Tuxedo, or was it Project S, or like whatever Super Cop 2 was called, the one that starred Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah.
That I remember watching it at the cottage. And we were so excited to watch a Jackie Chan picture. And then the last credit says, "and Jackie Chan." And my uncle went, "And Jackie Chan. You kids know what that means?" We were like, "No." He's like, "Well, you're about to find out."
Speaking of and Jackie Chan,
chasing a chicken.
This is my favorite Jackie moment from this movie, just him chasing it. I mean, that's a stunt.
Yep.
Have you tried to chase a chicken? Not
Chickens
hard.
run fast.
He's at his most Chaplin-esque at this moment, I think. Boom, boom, boom. But so some of the other, I guess, Jackie ephemera might include a movie like The 36 Crazy Fists, or there were many, or not many, but several films that were sort of assembled out of fight scenes from his Lo Wei era. So, like, I think one of them is called Jackie Chan, the Invincible Fighter, and, like, that would get sold at stores.
Yeah. And they would always have, like, plastic cases that were see-through, as if to make it look like they were worth more than they were. They're like, hey, this may be in the bargain bin, but look at this plastic case.
One of my favorite Jackie oddities. This is a great fight scene, by the way. It's actually, like, pretty good.
I wonder what Jackie Chan stuntmen are appearing in the scene, wearing masks.
Yeah, do you think he's, going all out for this Triad obligation movie?
Yep, probably.
Well, one of my favorite Jackie oddities is a movie called Fire Dragon, which has, and it was inevitable we were going to talk about this movie. It's a movie that I can find very little information about it online. In fact, it doesn't even have an IMDb page.
It's like the movie that you'd find playing in hell. Like, you'd open a door and you're like, ooh, Jackie Chan. Hey, Fantasy Mission Force. But it's not.
Fire Dragon is this phantom film. Like, it has a letterboxd page.
Yes, it does.
And you can find it online, so I didn't just hallucinate it.
No.
But there have been times when I thought I did. I can't even find an accurate year for it. There are some people who say it came out in 1983, but that's just because Fantasy Mission Force came out in 83. The most accurate date seems to be 1987. It's a cut-and-paste film, mostly assembled out of footage from Fantasy Mission Force, directed by a filmmaker named Chester Wong. Do you know Chester Wong?
No.
According to Letterboxd, his best-known movies are Seven Steps of Kung Fu from 1979. Never heard of it.
Yeah, I laugh because he probably doesn't exist.
And Commando Fury from 1986, which is a World War II POW film. Chester Wong, if he does exist...
Godfrey Ho!
is the poor man's Godfrey Ho, or perhaps he is Godfrey Ho.
I would probably say he's Godfrey Ho, I bet.
Yeah?
Because no one really did cut and paste jobs like he did. If you don't know who Godfrey Ho is, check out the podcast we did on him. He is the king of taking movies, editing them, and releasing something new.
Yeah, shooting, 10 minutes of new scenes and then buying up a lot of unfinished or, unloved movies.
But Fire Dragon is particularly shoddy, though. Like, even shoddier than, like, Ninja Terminator.
I watched the first 30 minutes of it today just to refresh myself on it, because I just wanted to be... like Fire Dragon isn't so much a movie as a place that you visit. It's this hellish, nightmare world. It's mostly footage from Fantasy Mission Force, but just like cut in an absolutely baffling, incomprehensible, impossible to follow way. And Chester Wong, whoever he may be, shot 20 minutes of footage that kind of turned it into a World War II rape revenge movie.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I see maybe like Godfrey Ho taking another name, because it is very sexually explicit.
It's very unpleasant. Well, it starts...
speaking of unpleasant, this giant massacre that just happened on screen.
I guess this is unpleasant, but Chu Yen-ping treats it so flippantly that it's hard to get down. But yeah, so Fire Dragon starts at a World War II prisoner of war camp, a very grim scene of lots of like bodies strung up, just absolutely terrible. Like if you're there to watch a fun Jackie Chan movie,
it feels like they watch like Men from Behind the Sun, the infamous like torture movie, and Fantasy Mission Force, and they were like, can we bring both of them together?
Yeah.
We just missed the famous blood splatter that happens in the movie, which I remember when we watched it in the back of that sushi bar, people were like, whoa, because like they weren't expecting something like that to pop up.
Yeah, this is pretty violent right now.
I mean, it's giving you a little bit of a like aperitif for what's about to happen in the climax of the film.
The main plot of Fire Dragon is that some sinister Nazis kill a general, I think, a wealthy general or something, and they rape his daughter.
Oof.
Not a pleasant scene. And then she tries to, seek revenge against these Nazis with the help of a Hong Kong Dirty Dozen. And also, there's a wacky character drifting through the movie
chasing a chicken
who is Jackie Chan, and Chester Wong, quote unquote, shoots a number of scenes of this Jackie Chan character, but like you don't see his face. There's
so like the back of the head, Fist of Fury, Game of Death 2 style.
Totally, and there's a wonderful scene in Fire Dragon when the Jackie Chan character is like lifting weights in a gym.
That's the one I saw, yeah.
Where he actually has a Jackie Chan poster on the wall as if to communicate, this is Jackie Chan.
That's classic Game of Death 2 as well, because there's like photos of Bruce Lee, mirrors of, it's supposed to be Bruce Lee, but just a photo of him still.
Yeah, well, Fire Dragon isn't quite that elaborate.
No, and we should point out, Game of Death 2, probably the best film that Bruce Lee was ever involved in.
Oh, I love Game of Death, too. Yeah. That's a Bruce Lee movie as if written by a 12-year-old.
Yes.
In the best possible
choreographed by Yu-Ping as well, so the martial arts are actually great in it.
Oh, man. I think I'm going to go home and watch Game of Death 2.
It was actually, do you remember it was included on that box set that was released in like stores in North America?
I do. This is a bit of a digression from Fantasy Mission Force, but Game of Death 2, which was Golden Harvest's second attempt to fabricate a Bruce Lee movie where there was none.
No fucking shame.
And it was mostly made out of, like, I swear, 3 minutes of deleted scenes from Enter the Dragon.
Yeah, there's like some fight scenes that they did include.
And so Bruce Lee's character dies 30 minutes in because there's simply not enough to keep him around.
What an explosion. I feel like a stuntman probably bit it in that giant one that we just saw.
But Game of Death 2 is mostly a vehicle for the guy who was Bruce Lee's double in the first Game of Death. And it's like a video game.
Yeah, what's funny about Game of Death 1 as well, is on this Bruce Lee tangent, is that it doesn't even feel that much like a Bruce Lee picture until Bruce Lee gets into it in the footage that he actually shot, because it was choreographed by Sammo Hung.
Yeah.
It's a completely different style than Bruce Lee does.
I heard Mike Leader say that, talking to Sammo Hung, Sammo felt that he had to, like, tone down his style to meet Bruce Lee's style.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, well, Bruce Lee is so much more direct than Sammo Hung.
Yeah.
That, like, even, like, Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung, if they met... Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee, if they met together, it wouldn't really work that well, even though they did in a little film called Jackie Chan versus Bruce Lee.
There are a couple of Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, like, crossover exploitation movies.
Yes, I'm thinking specifically of the Korean one.
Okay, this is called Jackie and Bruce to the Rescue, which stars a guy called Jackie Chung, I think.
Who was never seen again.
I think he might have also been in Big Boss 2. Like, there were a number of Jackie clones circulating around this time. And the guy who plays the Bruce character was Bruce Lee's body double in Game of Death. If you can find his name, I can't remember what his name was. And it's such a disappointing movie because they don't actually play Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee.
Oh, they don't?
It's just
I don't even remember it that well. Yeah, I've just seen like a fight scene where they kind of look like that. Like, if you're going to commit, you might as well just commit as much as you can.
There's another movie that I've always wanted to see called Fist to Fist, which isn't even a real movie, but it was released in, I think, 1999 on DVD.
Ooh.
And it's hard to find, and the conceit of it was, for ages, mankind has wondered, what would it be like if Bruce Lee were to fight Jackie Chan? Well, thanks to today's modern digital technology, we can find out.
I can guarantee you that it will be very shitty looking. 1999?
By all accounts, it was very shitty looking because they took fight scenes from Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee movies and digitally composited them together to have them fight each other. And of course, they could only fight for about 30 seconds because that's about as long as they could even fabricate that to make sense.
I'm shocked that you haven't seen this. I thought you would have gone to the end of the earth to find a copy.
I came pretty close to buying it on eBay once, but it was $30.
Oof.
And I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not worth that.
Like, it'll turn up on YouTube eventually.
Wait, we came to the most entertaining part of this movie, which is they decide to stop off in a haunted house. Anytime you mention Fantasy Mission Force, people don't go, oh, they fight Amazons, or, oh, like, the Dirty Dozen. They just mention the fact that they fight, like, hopping vampire-ish characters.
When Jackie Chan's autobiography says that this is a movie, you know, if it sounds like it doesn't make any sense, that's because it doesn't. I think it's written with an American audience in mind, because an American audience watching this would have no idea what to make of this.
So, for people that don't know, what you're seeing on screen right now is, like, the most popular kind of supernatural foe in Hong Kong cinema, pretty much 80s onward. And speaking of Sammo Hung, that was mostly popularized, I can't say that word, by Sammo Hung making the film Encounters of the Spooky Kind, which holds up to this day, feels like Sam Raimi doing like a Hong Kong Evil Dead kind of thing. And then with the Mr. Vampire series, which were most specifically centered around hopping vampires. The good thing about like these kind of Hong Kong supernatural films is that they do have their own rules, and that's why they're fun. It's not like anything goes. It's like the characters can get involved in what's going on and hurt the ghosts in some ways or slow them down, and that's what I always enjoyed about it the most.
But this would seem baffling, I think, to Western audiences.
They would have no idea what's going on.
Whereas, yeah, in the East, there would be precedent for a Hong Kong hopping vampire movie, or there would be precedent for a movie like this, something this sort of kooky that goes in this many directions. I mean, this isn't even the craziest, you know, Hong Kong or Taiwanese martial arts movie.
Oh, no, not even close, I don't think.
Watch something like The Boxer's Omen.
Or even something like Kung Fu Wonder Child, which also has hopping vampires in it. And it's just like Taiwanese films more than Hong Kong, when they would do flying swordsman stuff, they would go all out. There's a series called like The Child of Peach, Peach being like a famous mythical character that they kept going back to, which like her films, and I say her, even though that, like, it's supposed to be a boy, but it was mostly played by, like, a girl most of the time, which was very popular in some Chinese movies. Like, those are great. There's, like, chicken gods and stuff like that they fight, and all manners of special effects.
I remember when the Japanese movie House became very popular over here.
And people were like, I've never seen anything that crazy.
I remember sitting in a theater watching House and thinking, why don't people love Fantasy Mission Force like they love this? That's actually what I thought.
It actually has all the same gags. There's like a head-swapping gag.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
But unfortunately, Jackie's autobiography was so powerful that it squashed all discussion about Fantasy Mission Force.
Houseu is one of those films that, like, I want to like a lot, and, like, people that have the same taste as me, they love it, and I just, like, I'm like, it's not crazy enough, and, like... It's not like the craziness is so disconnected from anything that like I don't care. That is a good gag where he's like praying to God to give him strength and get a good hand, which is hurting the hopping vampires around him.
The craziness in this movie is connected to stuff that I do care about, like Jackie Chan's Triad Dats and Jimmy Wang Yu's ego.
So you think if the director of Houseu was like forced to make the film,
then I would be really interested in Houseu.
I actually looked into this because this is like a gambling sequence which was really popular in Hong Kong thanks to Wong Jing, but God of Gamblers, the one that we usually associate with the one kind of kicking off the genre, only came out in 1989, but Wong Jing was already making gambling films at this point in his career, having directed Challenge of the Gamesters and I think Win It All a few years before this. So I have a feeling those were, you know, okay hits. There were Shaw Brothers productions, and it probably inspired a wave of things from there.
Maybe we should finish talking about the Shaw Brothers, because, you know, with the rise of Bruce Lee, he was, of course, courted by the Shaw Brothers, but didn't want to work under the rigorous control of Run and Run Mei Shaw.
There's photos of, like, Bruce Lee dressed up in garb, and I don't know if it's actually Shaw Brothers, like, promotional test shots.
From what I understand, anytime that Bruce Lee was having a dispute with Raymond Chow from Golden Harvest, he would say, he would just go have a meeting at Shaw Brothers and, like, be photographed there, and then, you know, Raymond Chow would say, oh, okay, whatever you want, Bruce, whatever you want.
But the problem with that is that the Shaw Brothers, you know, sticking to their mantra, wouldn't pay Bruce Lee that much more than their biggest stars were making.
But Bruce Lee, became massively successful outside of the Shaw Brothers, and I think his success sort of signaled the end of the Shaw Brothers' dominance or their monopoly on Hong Kong martial arts films.
Like, the Shaw Brothers had a house style that they went back to over and over again. You can see most Shaw Brothers films and recognize them instantly. And they did try to break out of that a little bit. Like, in the 80s, they made films like Bloody Parrot, which is filled with nudity and gore, but it's still a wuxia picture. But I feel like the kind of specter that they represented, they had to get out of the way for places like Cinema City and like Golden Harvest, just like new production companies that were doing things differently. I mean, even like Chu Yen-ping worked for Cinema City, the Carl Macca Choi Hark company, for a little while before moving on to wherever someone would give him a paycheck.
I feel like if you watch a Shaw Brothers movie from 1974 and then watched one from 1984, you'll see an evolution in some ways, but stylistically,
they're very
visually
close to the same.
Yeah.
Because they had a house style, like the Shaw Brothers studio, it was a whole big compound. People, a lot of them, the technicians lived there. They were just given a new film to work on every week, so you just clocked in and out. You worked on the sets that were already built. Like, it was a factory line.
It is actually monstrous the way they treated their employees. Like, they were indentured servants. Like, they'd be signed for these draconian 8-year contracts, paid almost nothing.
The Shaw Brothers were able to continue on with what Hollywood had kind of abolished by the 60s.
Yeah.
And they couldn't exist that long, but they didn't move into television where they flourished, because that kind of studio system,
like a little Repulsion.
Homage to Repulsion.
I forgot about that shot. That's so fucking funny.
Chu Yen-ping, trash, art, he brings them all together.
Oh, man.
I love that the sequence is just a haunted house as well. Like,
we are so far from the plot to save the generals.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Where's Jackie?
We're not invested in this at all, so we don't care.
You just have to live in the moment in this movie. You have to let it wash over you, and then look at this.
I love myself some Halloween skeleton action.
You know a movie is good if you could just cut any random 20 minutes and it will make no difference.
Look, here's some Houseu action right here.
Love it.
I like how gory the shot coming up is. Oh my god.
If the right people gave this the right kind of midnight treatment, I think it could have a Houseu
Yeah,
afterlife.
absolutely. And you could just sell it as did you see how crazy this film Jackie Chan is in? And once you watch it remastered and nice looking,
call it the movie Jackie Chan doesn't want you to see. This is beautiful.
This is great stuff. Look at that, the smear, a little bit of Vilmos Zsigmond there on the lights.
Yeah,
McCabe and Mrs. Miller.
We're watching Orson Welles' The Immortal Story. What other highbrow references can we lob at this thing?
I mean, we're not lobbing them. They're obviously there in the text.
And also it's the handmade quality. It really does look like a bunch of kids just got together and put on shitty costumes.
But at the same time, it's so complicated to do something like this, and to get all these people on your team following this vision, which I guess just because, look at that shot, so beautiful.
Pure cinema, one perfect shot. And people drift in and out just like a dream.
Yeah, I guess it's just you pay these people, they'll show up and do whatever. Yeah, it's very, I got it, Buñuelian.
Yeah, very much.
This should have been the Un Chien Andalou of its time.
I like any shot where there's a light in the distance and a lot of
fog,
smoke, and
smoke.
A silhouette is illuminated.
Oh, look at that.
Now that I'm an older man and I appreciate and understand the aesthetics of cinema more, the film grammar, style.
Yep.
I'm more ready to appreciate Fantasy Mission Force in a deeper way. It's probably a good thing that I didn't get this far on my viewing with my friends. I don't think
you would have to explain a lot.
Well, I don't think they would have liked this.
I mean, I used to fall in love with movies, but I would never show my friends the entire movie. I'd only show them scenes, because I knew that I couldn't keep their attention for 90 minutes.
Much depends in Fantasy Mission Force on, are you with the musical number at the beginning or are you not?
That's really the tone setter. Chu Yen-ping setting it down. Are you going to accept this? or are you not going to accept it? And even in the English dub version, that song was in the original Chinese, because I guess the people who
Which
released
makes it all the better.
Yeah, because they want you to sing along like ooh la la, ooh la la.
Dun, 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 dun,
Look at this. We're reaching the end of a commentary track. We're just impressed by what's happening on screen, jumping through these, like, I guess, just fireworks.
I mean, just visually.
Slow motion, just the perfect way to capture it.
Isn't it crazy that Fantasy Mission Force actually looks better than any Chinese movie made today?
That looks like Beast of the Southern Wilds there. Those fireworks going up.
Let's talk a little bit about what happened to Jimmy Wang Yu after this film.
Okay, so after Fantasy Mission Force, wait, because Island of Fire came out in the 90s, right?
Yeah, so Fantasy Mission Force came really on the tail end of Jimmy Wang Yu being a star in the early 80s. According to Jimmy Wang Yu, one of the reasons that he stepped away from film was because he wanted to become a businessman. He started a department store, and apparently it didn't work out.
He probably beat up people that made him angry in public.
And, you know, while we're on this subject, why don't we talk a little bit about some Jimmy Wang Yu gossip?
Oof. Yeah, I mean, it's not fun gossip.
No, it's pretty bad stuff. And, well, one thing that I can't provide you an answer on that I've always been curious about is if you read anything about Jimmy Wang Yu, you will hear that he was charged for murder in 1981.
Wait, now I'm just curious. Did they put these Nazi flags like that to make them look like the Buddhist symbol?
Or to make them look straight?
Yeah,
It's
because that's the like.
this symbol's crooked, damn it.
Yeah, I wonder if that's what it was.
Or are they trying to make a symbolic point about how Nazism is Buddhism?
Probably that one.
But apparently, you've heard the rumor that Jimmy Wang Yu was charged with murder in 1981.
Yes, I have.
Have you ever heard anything to
No,
back that
I
up?
haven't. Supposedly it happened like in a street fight or something like that. So maybe he was charged with manslaughter, and he, I don't know, in the Hong Kong system paid a fine or something like that.
He was well known for his love life. He had a marriage in the 70s with a well-known movie actress that was broken up, and from 1969 to 1975, amidst rumors of spousal abuse.
Well, did you hear that? Yeah, his first wife, Janet Lin, she was married to the director Chun Kim, and before they divorced, Chun Kim committed suicide and hung himself.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Jimmy Wang Yu was married again later in the 80s and 90s to a flight attendant named Wang Kaizan, and when Jimmy sensed that she was cheating on him, he broke into her love nest with the police and reporters. Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of guy we're talking about here.
Yep, and then when they broke up after a public humiliation in 1997. A little bit of Road Warrior action here.
Love it.
If you're going to do all the rip-offs, you got to do the Road Warrior.
Jimmy Wang Yu was probably best known, I guess, for his association with the Triads. He is often referred to as kind of a George Raft of Hong Kong cinema, if that's not too antiquated a reference. But George Raft was also somebody who would like hang around with Bugsy Siegel and was like, if not a gangster himself, liked to be perceived as the kind of guy who hung out with gangsters. And Jimmy Wang Yu was always getting into brawls and doing dumb stuff. He more or less retired in the 80s, and then Island of Fire, this big prison movie, was going to be his comeback vehicle. And so he, called in a lot of favors from Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung.
Yeah, because Jimmy Wang Yu actually showed up in Sammo Hung's Millionaire Express as Wong Fei-hung's father, which makes me think that Jimmy Wang Yu put a little bit of pressure. He's like, listen, I need a role in this.
Yeah. That movie was released in America as Jackie Chan is the Prisoner.
Oh, Island of Fire, not Millionaire Express.
Island of Fire, no, Millionaire's Express.
And it had like a painted cover of him like grimacing.
And Jackie Chan's only in it for maybe 20 minutes.
I remember there was a commentary track on the DVD with like
Philip Ree.
Yes, the star of Best of the Best.
All four of the Best of the Best movies, and he gave a commentary track that was like more or less useless because it's not like he knew
anybody involved.
He wasn't. He claimed to be friends with Sammo Hung. Who knows?
That was like a time where every film needed a commentary track, no matter what. You can just see the commentary on Steven Spielberg's AI for the most useless.
But after Island of Fire, Jimmy Wang Yu drifted away again. He kind of stormed back into cinema in the 2010s, actually. In 2011, he appeared in the Donnie Yen film Wuxia, also known
AKA
as
Dragon,
which was a disguised remake of The One-Armed Swordsman.
Yes, because it was revealed at the end that that's what it was. So Jimmy Wang Yu being there was a nice little wink and a nudge.
Who better to play the big bad than Jimmy Wang Yu? Well, actually, you probably could do better because according to Donnie Yen, Jimmy Wang Yu was not in great health and couldn't really do very much in the fight scene.
I believe it may have been post-stroke.
It was pre-stroke.
It was pre-stroke.
According to Jimmy Wang Yu, he had the stroke right after, and this stroke paralyzed half of his body.
An ironic punishment.
Turning him into a real one-armed swordsman, if you will.
That's we can say this because he was a bad man.
Yeah, he was. But that didn't stop him. And he returned that same year to be in a movie called Let's Go by Wong Ching-po.
Oh, I really like that movie.
I've heard good things. In 2012, he was in The Guillotines, and in 2013, he was in a horror film called Soul. And all that time, he, worked very hard at physical therapy and regained a certain amount of his strength. He's in his mid-70s now.
I mean, Jimmy Wang Yu was never a very expressive performer, so I don't think that, that would affect his performances that much.
It would be, I think, too much of a compliment to call him like a Clint Eastwood type.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a lot of
I don't think he's
charisma.
very, charismatic.
He's not likable.
No.
I mean, whenever he's in a movie...
He has an angry face.
Yeah, he does have an angry face, and, he's obviously, in his early movies, trying to do kind of a James Dean thing, but he's just a douche. I don't
He's
like
fine
him.
in One-Armed Swordsman, but I think the film around him is doing a lot of lifting. And when you compare it to somebody like David Chang, who would take over his role and return to the One-Armed Swordsman, now that dude's charismatic and fun to watch. Jimmy Wang Yu, not so much.
I do like thinking about Jimmy Wang Yu. He's somebody who was there...
Because you love that gossip.
He was there at an interesting time. He just happened to be the guy who was the first big kung fu star. And, he has that, oh, look at this, Terrence Malick. This is Mad Max stuff. That's clearly what they're ripping off here.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, like Jimmy Wang Yu would go on to be someone that represented kung fu for a few years. And it's weird that somebody like Dick Lung wouldn't be that guy, because that guy is fun and he's charismatic, and while people know him as being the star of A Better Tomorrow 1 and 2, he never had any kind of international exposure.
My theory is that because Jimmy Wang Yu's early movies were more violent than what people were accustomed to seeing from martial arts movies.
Yeah, the novelty there.
And Jimmy Wang Yu was the type of presence to sell that. He was a tough, angry-looking guy for a tougher, angrier kind of cinema.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
I mean, at the same time, you have somebody like Lo Wei?
Lo Wei, yeah.
Not to be confused with Lo Wei, the star of Five Fingers of Death, which is the other, major martial arts film.
Five Fingers of Death, also known as King Boxer, was the first Hong Kong martial arts movie by the Shaw Brothers to make a real significant success internationally, particularly in America.
I mean, you look at those cars, that is the Nazi symbol. There's no attempt to make it do you think people could even drive those cars around? They're just covered in Nazi paraphernalia.
God, I love this. There's just so much to look at,
I mean, this is the, we're gonna destroy the set period of the film. I like how they have, real squibs, too. I don't want to assume they were really shooting people, but maybe they were. There's that famous story of, but it was shooting in the Philippines, I think, that John Woo was doing Hero Shed No Tears, and the guy's like, listen, we could just shoot at the person, and, the bullets will ricochet. It'll be faster than setting up squibs.
Jackie's back for, I think, his
using the
third or fourth major appearance in the film.
Using the gun from Phantasm 2 that has all the barrels.
And rather abruptly, we're going to find out that Jackie Chan was, in fact, the star of the film.
Yes, because the film will end around him, and he will have the final fight.
The movie didn't make a lot of effort to get us to love the Fantasy Mission Force as individual people or as a collective.
But maybe that works in its favor, because it's so light and fluffy that when this shit starts to happen and they start dying one by one, it's not even a cliche, it's just flabbergasting, because you're like, what? They're dying?
Yeah, because the movie is so kind of, aside from the violent scenes we saw, the movie is so goofy.
And playful,
Yeah, you don't expect, these wonderful heroes that you spent the whole time with to just be brutally massacred.
All of them, except for Jackie Chan.
Are we going to save the generals, by the way? Wasn't that the ostensible purpose of this mission?
I don't know, because wasn't it like a big scam job by the secret villain who's going to be revealed at the finale?
Right.
I mean, I forgot. They fought Amazons.
I've seen this movie a dozen times, and I still can't remember what it's
ghosts.
about. Yeah.
Like, I hope people aren't sitting around waiting for those ghosts to show back up.
This is like being in a dream of Hong Kong cinema.
Yeah.
Like, if Hong Kong cinema went to sleep and dreamed something, this would be it.
You want to get like a Cinerama Dome, like 360 Fantasy Mission Force experience.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what, let's be honest, 100 years of Chinese cinema at the TIFL Likes box should have started with.
Well, if they were honest.
Yes.
This is what Chinese cinema actually looks like, folks.
Did
they play any Wang Jing movies at that?
No.
They played, Zhang Yimou. Give me a break.
Give
me a break.
Chu Yen-ping actually did work for Wang Jing a lot, making some of the wave of flying swordsman pictures that Wang Jing made to rip off Swordsman 2, including a really fun one called Flying Dagger, which was one of the first DVDs I ever bought in Chinatown. I still have the real copy of it, not a bootleg.
I still have too many gaps in my Chu Yen-ping knowledge to, fully understand whether or not he's an artist or merely a hack or something in between.
Like, what are his passions and what does he follow?
Like perhaps he really is a great... I watch this movie and I think, come on, this is incredible. Like, there has to be an artist behind this. How can somebody make this movie and not, be a genius?
Yeah, but when you compare it to somebody like William Bodine, Bodine doesn't care, right? And Chu Yen-ping obviously cares about what he's doing, but that doesn't necessarily make him an artist. An artist of entertainment, if you will.
Sure.
I love how brutal this death is too that we just saw, where he got stabbed in the butt.
Yeah. I would love to know just the thought process behind some of these scenes. Why would somebody end a movie like this?
Well, I mean, it's almost like a trope, right, in Chinese cinema, going even to the films of Chang, where the heroic people die honorable, bloody deaths by the end of the picture.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not versed enough in Chinese history to know how much historically important that is, but as far as genre and kung fu goes, that's how a lot of the films ended around that era. Everybody dies, and they die either in an honorable way or they die defeating the villain.
In this way, it's rather dishonorable, don't you think?
Yes.
They find out it's just a big scam and they die
for nothing.
Yeah, and look at this sadistic shit going on here.
I love the putting the gun in his hand. It's we're gonna go out together.
I like watching him cry and then remembering this is the guy that we saw singing that fun song at the beginning.
I love this ending, which is essentially Chu Yen-ping going, I want to do the classic Western ending where they come out guns drawn, but I want to show them get brutally murdered instead of just cutting away.
About a year ago, you and I watched Island of Fire again, revisiting it.
Not as fun as Fantasy Mission Force.
It's, tonally the opposite of Fantasy Mission Force. It's a very grim, prison movie with a lot of ugly violence and unpleasantness. And it has some things in common with Fantasy Mission Force, though.
Including a finale.
A finale where everyone dies, and and just a kind of stream of consciousness storytelling style.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Island of Fire is that it is ripping off, the popular films that Ringo Lam was making at that time, Prison on Fire, and because of that, it's much more gritty and down to earth.
And it's also a real pastiche of just a lot of other prison movies. It has whole scenes that it just rips off from Cool Hand Luke.
Yeah, but then you do get some Jackie Chan action or some Sammo Hung action, but just not enough.
But that film, you'll have one character and then it drifts to another character and then another character and then...
Couldn't have Jackie Chan just showed up a little bit earlier? He just kills them all so easily.
Remember when Jackie would say things like,
I've never shot a gun in my movies.
I don't like guns, no.
It's so hard not to do a Jackie Chan voice.
Look at this monstrous violence.
This is 100% had Rambo come out by this point?
Maybe First Blood.
Yeah, but maybe not Rambo 2, which would define the firing the machine gun. Here, the generals are back.
Wait, what's going on?
This almost feels like a Blazing Saddles kind of rug pull at the end. You wouldn't be surprised if you saw a clapper man come in and go cut, here we go, and then everybody gets up off their feet and sings a song or something like that.
So, Jimmy Wang Yu still alive?
Yeah, but how? What's going on?
Uh-oh.
That's because he's the villain. So brutal, too. This one guy was I lived through this! And he's then shot multiple times. I wonder what the life of the other people in the bar that that guy sung that song with. What are they doing with their lives?
I have a feeling we might have seen some of them recur in other scenes.
Chu Yen-ping films.
Just, other white guys in the background. Of course, he's a mercenary the whole time.
We've talked about this, but that would be our wish, right? To, like, appear in, like, a Taiwanese or Hong Kong, like, action movie.
Oh, I would love it. There was this...
And just be the bad guy. Just to be like, they can't stop the opium from coming into the country.
Or, these Chinese who love their culture so much. Yeah. They're not like us British imperialists who want to steal their artifacts.
I think that's probably the only thing that Fantasy Mission Force is missing is, like, white villains. Like, clear white villains.
Yeah, and like some serious anti-colonial shit.
Yeah, love that shit.
Yeah. This scene's really fun, actually. This Jimmy versus Jackie stuff.
Yeah, well, it's like super inventive. Obviously, Jackie was there on the day to help out.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, like, I'm sure that at this point he was like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it.
I read an interview with Jackie Chan once where he was talking about the experience of making Island of Fire. Mm-hmm. And he said he was contrasting it to the films that he makes. And he said, I got to the set and Jimmy's joking around with his friends and the director is joking around and everyone's joking around. Mm-hmm. Like, he felt that it was an unserious working environment.
I mean, they're making Island of Fire, and at the same time as well, like, Jackie's sets are famously disorganized and make it up as you go along. Mm-hmm. I love all this stuff. And then it goes into, like, a really good fist fight between both of them.
I just love seeing the two of them together. Jackie Chan and Jimmy Wang Yu, these two legends. I mean, obviously I like one of them more than the other, but...
I mean, you're fascinated by both of them to varying degrees.
Absolutely.
I mean, when is the great Jimmy Wang Yu biography going to be written?
Oh, please.
Probably after he passes away, I bet.
I mean, what you really need is an author who can write it and can also, like, translate it into English.
But, I mean, like, the first real Bruce Lee English biography just came out, so it'll probably be a while before the real Jimmy Wang Yu one makes an appearance.
Perhaps never.
Yep.
In Jackie Chan's autobiography, talking about this film, as Jackie is describing a conversation with his manager, Willie Chan, and describing the circumstances that led to this film, Willie Chan said, "In short, Jackie, there shouldn't be any further problems with anyone, although there is the matter of owing Jimmy Wang Yu a few favors. It got somewhat sticky there for a while there, I imagine." And then Jackie says, "That was probably an understatement. Later, I ended up returning the favors to Jimmy Wang Yu by appearing in two of his films, Fantasy Mission Force and Island of Fire. They were both awful, but I'd been raised to believe that nothing was as important as repaying a debt."
Also, they would kill me if I didn't do it. Like they did to Wang Jing when they broke all of his teeth. This film was action choreographed by Lam Man Chung, who principally worked for Chu Yen-ping and in Taiwan, making such films as 8 Strikes of a Wildcat, Death's Duel of the Mantis, Ninja Supremo, or Chu Yen-ping films like The Kung Fu Kids, Young Dragons, Book of Heroes, Funny Family, Slave of the Sword, and The King of Comic, which starred En Meng Tat, the partner of Stephen Chow in the 90s.
It was also written, allegedly, by somebody named Wai San, who also directed or wrote Pink Force Commando and another number of other Chu Yen-ping films. A real family operation.
The only noticeable thing about Lam Man Chung is that on HK Cinemagic, it claims that he was a stuntman on Miracles, the Jackie Chan picture.
It's a small world working in the Hong Kong and Taiwanese film industry.
Yeah, and Miracles was a gigantic production, so it probably involved everybody. I love this Jackie stunt. Here, you can't all just be fighting. He's got to do some stunts as well. Whoa! Even though that's not him. That's 100% not him.
But Justin, he does all his own stunts.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, who am I going to trust? My own eyes or the MTV Movie Awards? Listen, the promotional department of Rumble in the Bronx, they had to find a gag. I bet you, Jackie believes it himself now, too. He said it so much. Yeah. He's like, Chin Kar Lok shows up, and he's like, "Hey, how's it going? I doubled you on Dragons Forever." He's like, "I don't know who you are. Get out of my face." I like the rawness of this fight too. It feels like they're hurting because there's no slickness to any of the stunts that Jackie is doing.
It's really brutal. Some of these,
you could believe that Jackie could die at the end of this.
That's actually Jimmy doing some of his stunts, too. Gotta give him credit.
Well, I feel like when Jimmy was on set with Jackie, he was probably like, I gotta do it all myself, because he does have that big an ego.
I mean, talking about working on the Donnie Yen movie Wuxia from a couple of years ago, like, that was partly Jimmy Wang Yu's ego. He would brag that, like,
I did everything.
I insisted on doing all my own stunts. And his stunts in that movie consist of, like, standing up once and, like, outstretching an arm.
Well, Donnie said in that, like, Q&A that we saw at the Royal that, like, they had so much difficulty finding a way to make a fight between him and Jimmy because, like, they just couldn't do it. So there's a lot of the back of the head kind of stuff. Let's finish blowing up the set that we built.
Damn. This is a movie with lots of stuff getting blown up.
Which
and,
is the perfect sign of a great movie. See all of Michael Bay's filmography.
How often do you see a movie these days where something blows up for real?
Never.
Yeah.
Never.
Come on. This is beautiful.
Well, like,
it's so tactile.
Doesn't it, like, lose impact to people when they see, like, you always see it's, like, in a building, like, a floor blows up and it's, like, a CGI explosion. You're like, ugh.
You know, I think it's fair to say that cinema is a failed art form, but it did bring us a couple of, like, miracles. And, like, it's just wonderful that the stars aligned to get this movie made.
So I'm glad that Jackie was finally able to save Abraham Lincoln.
Jackie saved the day. We were with him all along.
And if for some reason you're listening to this commentary and you haven't listened to our Jackie Chan 100 episode spectacular, give it a listen. And we also have a Patreon episode where we talked more in detail about Island of Fire.
By the way, the English version has a different closing line. He says, generals, you look like clowns to me. And then he drives off. And then that's the beautiful, thought to end you with.
Really sticking it to the government stiffs.
And speaking of thoughts to end on, thanks for listening.
Yeah, I hope you listened it. Hope you had as much fun listening to it as we had recording it.
Perhaps you could have heard us like going gradually insane as it went further and further along.
Also, it's so hot right now. We're just covered in sweat. I watched this yesterday, and the best part of that ending is that when the end pops up, they just couldn't help themselves from going, ooh la la, chaka, ooh la la.
Chaka. Oh, let's just take a break.
Yeah, so